Now, having said that, I had Dennis Law at Huddersfield. I had him for about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. I was connected with the club, or maybe more than that. 3 years with Dennis Law, and I organised what he did in his training. And he went into the training session with the beginning. He was taken out and did stints on his own. And he did a lot of ball work, you know, and then 3-a-sides and 5-a-sides. But he wasn't overburdened with it. He was a young boy, and we were trying to, you know, give him extra food for energy. And when he's young, and if they get overtrained when they're young, you can finish them for all time as a player. Because we had the experience in our family. My brother John, who was one of 5 of us who played football, went to a club at an early age, and they overstrained a heart muscle for him. Now, that was bad for my brother John, but if something happens that's tragic, or it's, you know, affects people, you can learn lessons from that. Now, it was a lesson for me that when you're young boys, it was an art, and it's not the easiest thing in the world to bring them up. So this was good for me, but I was very careful with young boys. And Law was one of them, of course, whose training was organised into sessions that he liked. We let him do things that he liked. But he wasn't overburdened with it, because on a Saturday he'd give you everything during a match. Run himself to death. So you couldn't really do it on the field and off the field at his age and his size and his weight. And then we had Ian Callaghan, who came here as a little boy, about 5'6", and I'm not too sure what it was, maybe 8.5 stone. Now he's on song to beat the record for league games in all time in this country. And he's already broken the record for FA Cup ties. Now, if that boy who worked like a slave on a Saturday had been hammered during the week, then there might not have been any Ian Callaghan playing now. Phil Thompson's another one who came with as thin as his matchsticks, his legs, and he didn't look like an athlete or a player at all. To me, he did, of course. We knew he could play. Right from the start, we knew he had the ability. Now, he's another one that had to be, you know, sorted out and helped, and not overtrained. So I think that the schoolboys they get, because of all this talk about extra ball work and extra sessions and training twice a day, now there's a point about that. Now, I can tell you here and now that I don't believe in training twice a day, even for full-time professional players. Now, there comes a time in Liverpool's training initial period that possibly before the season starts, they stop training twice a day. So I don't believe in it. No way. Now, if you're going to train twice a day, you've got to curtail your sessions. So the first sessions, if he's going to train twice, the first session's got to be an easy one. And the second session's got to be an easy one. Whereas if you have a hard session your first time, then at the second period, you go down. After 20 minutes, the players are tired and they're bored. So to train hard twice a day, no way. Never mind about what that's all they do. Now, football is a game that doesn't last for a week. If you box, you train for 6 months for one fight. Football, you play every week, train every day, and you hardly have any cross season. Or you play squash, and you play none of it out of condition. So to go on year after year into 10, 12 years, as some of them do and more, you can't do that kind of thing. So this training twice a day, as some people do, it's all rubbish. And they bring young boys back and they give them 2 sessions. Now, in the middle of that session, they're bored. So you're doing them no good at all. Now, if they're natural football players, and everybody's signed on, everybody thinks they're good to play, they should be able to play if they're signed on as professional players. Now, they've got skill inside them. Now, if you can get them fit, perfectly fit as a man could be, as fit as that specific player could be, then he can do things if he's fit. They wouldn't do if he was overtrained and he was bored. He would lose a little bit of balance, so he wouldn't be able to do that as quick as he could do it. So keeping them perfectly fit is the thing. Instead of taking them back and by boring them with an extra session of running and ball work, then you're tiring them, you're making them sick of the game. So this is an art. So I'm asking you this question, you're asking me, Barry, about where do the schoolboy internationals go? I'm asking, where do they go? How many of them make the grade? Not enough of them. Because every year England shows up 12, 14, 20 schoolboy internationals, and maybe even more, because there might be some boys in other parts of the country equivalent to the other ones, just as good as they are. But they can't pay them all. They can only pay one. 11 schoolboys for England, 11 for Scotland, 11 for Ireland, 11 for Wales. So there's other boys in the fringe who possibly there isn't much difference between. It's a difficult job to pick the best schoolboys. Very difficult. It might be in Middlesbrough, it might be in Portsmouth, who knows. So over the years there's hundreds of schoolboys leaving school who can play football. And there's not enough of them making the grade. Maybe they've all been to school, but they weren't taken on as professional players from the beginning, though. Usually, a lot of them are picked up from junior teams, or picked up from third division teams, or picked up from fourth division teams. They don't go straight into first division teams from school. So I'm talking about the boys who make the grade at school, get capped, go to big clubs, and they look like brilliant players. And in 2 years' time, you don't hear any more of them. Where have they gone?
So the message there is that it's entirely possible, it's entirely a fact, that young schoolboy internationals can simply be trained out of the game almost.
They can be trained out the game or coached out the game. They can be overcoached. See, if I'm going to coach, if I'm going to speak to a group of players, schoolboy players, youth players, big full-time professional players, if I'm going to speak to them or do something, I'm going to speak to them in a language that they all understand, not a language that only a few understand. And that's what's wrong. And you can get politicians to get up and they can speak in a language that very few people understand. They want to simplify it and clarify what they're going to say and the meanings. So you've got to get through to people, and then they know what you're talking about. And this is one of the things. Maybe the boys get mixed up with the jargon and the coaching. Maybe they're overcoached. Maybe they're undercoached. Maybe they're badly coached. I don't know. I'm not saying all the coaches are bad coaches. No. It depends on how much authority they've got. But when I had my trainers, we called them trainers or coaches. I mean, I was around the groups. So one of them in charge of a group in the training sessions. Bob Paisley and one, and Reuben Bennett and Joe Fagan and Ronnie Moran. They all had allocated jobs for the day. I was around watching all of them. And this is what a manager's got to be. So he gets to know all of them. Then he can approach them about something appertaining to a player in his squad or in his team. So that's how I dealt with my men and how I got on with them. If it was Joe Fagan and I was a reserve team player, I could go to him and I would say yes or no, yes, okay, and that was it. The mystery has been going on and on and on, Barry, for a long time, the international schoolboys. And how to look after a young man, it depends on his physique. So he's got to be trained according to his physique. Now, if he gives you what Law and Callaghan gave me on a Saturday, and Keegan as well, and a few more of them, then you've got to watch what you're doing with them during the week.